There's one question I will not ask you. Okay, how's the Josh? How's the Josh? Aren't you tired of this? How's the Josh? Wherever you go, how's the Josh? I mean, seriously, yeah. We are tired of hearing it. How about you?
No, actually, I don't think I'll ever be tired of this question.
How's the Josh?
Because I think what this line has given to me is something very special to me and my family. And although, yeah, it had reached a point where I could just get up in the middle of the sleep and say, "Hi, sir." So I had reached that point,
right?
But I'll never get tired. I'll never take it as a negative thing. That line is too special for me.
This is, in a certain sense, that film that made you, for lack of a better word, I mean, these things are all, they're adjectives at the end of the day, but a superstar. That movie made you
I don't think
in terms of numbers, box office, an X number equals a superstar. So a movie crosses 200 crore. And what's not an irony, it's not ironic at all, is that it was your first action film, right? And I'm presuming that your entry into cinema in terms of its understanding would have been easiest with action because your father is an action director. Would you agree?
Yeah. I've been actually, to be very honest, I was craving to do an action film. Also, like you said, my introduction to cinema was through action films because I as an audience also really enjoy watching action films. So I was very eager to do an action film, and when this film came, an action not in the sense that the over the top and that kind of action. I wanted to do a very realistic kind of action. Like for me, a good action film is what Amir Khan's Ghulam is from the 90s. That's the kind of action I really like. Like for me, my favorite piece of work of my dad's is his first film Prahar or say Black Friday. Right. That's my space of action where I really enjoy where action is a scene. It's not it's not like one hero it's not a set piece. It's a scene. It's part of the narrative. Right. So I like that. So when the script came and I loved everything about it, and I was glad that that's my, also as an audience, that's my genre of action that I like watching. And when I started discussing it with Aditya, I knew that in terms of aesthetics of the film, in terms of showing a war film, in terms of showing the military, there was something fresh to offer. Right. In the way he was seeing it, in the way he wanted to present it to the audience. So I thought there's a lot of newness in the story and in the way the director wanted to present it. And of course, it being an action genre, it was very new for me as well.
It was your first action film?
It was my first action film. Having said that, what happened with the film, nobody of us expected.
You couldn't have predicted this,
Nothing.
This was nuts.
We were shooting the film, and while we were promoting, while I saw the cut at the edit table much later, we were only thinking, yaar, bas dekhne aa jaye picture. Log dekhne aa jaye picture. And because for me, it was also a big deal because having read the script, knowing what the film is, I knew that this film could have gone to anybody else, to a much bigger star, to a superstar, and I know they would have taken it up. It was a big deal for me that I was the first person who was offered this film.
How did you land this film?
I was shooting for Razi, and I remember the exact day when I got this call. I was shooting on a set we had created on Meera Road, where we were shooting the interior portions of the Pakistani house, my house in the film. And that day was a very hectic day because we were shooting that emotional scene between me and Alia towards the end, where he comes to know of Alia's truth.
Right.
So that day, I had cried a lot. We had done that emotional scene, this, that. So it was a very hectic day, but also a very satisfactory day. We had canned good stuff. So after that, after pack up, I sat in my car. There was a long drive, and I got a call from Sonia, who's the associate producer on the film, from Ronnie Screwwala's team. She's a good friend of mine, and she said that we've dropped a script to your house. It's an action film. I don't want to talk much about it. We are very excited for this film. And Aditya had met before. Aditya was going to make this film called Raat Baki Hai. I think that's what the film was called, with Fawad and Katrina.
Right.
With Dharma.
Which, because of the whole Pakistan thing, they couldn't.
Because of Uri, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I had met him at that point for one of the characters in his film, in that film. And but that time I was shooting for something else, and that didn't work out. The film where
Fawad and Katrina were going to be lead.
Yeah. Right. And it was going to be on floors in like 20 days. Right. So, but that didn't happen or whatever. So I knew Aditya. I had met him once, and he was very sweet. He had called me after Masan and whatever. She told me it's Aditya's film, and we've left the script at your house. So give it a read and let us know. So I went back home and I saw the title on the script, that Uri, the surgical strike. So now I wasn't the actor. I wanted to know what happened, what actually happened. So I was very curious to read that script. So that very night, I started reading the script, and it took me 4.5 hours. So I usually read the script in one go. I don't break it. I read it as if I'm watching a film.
Right.
That's when I get the true sense of what I felt.
As an audience.
As an audience.
Yeah.
As an audience. So I started watching the reading the script, and it took me 4.5 hours, and I couldn't get it. I just couldn't get it. There was too much information, too many military, technical, logistic language, and this and that, and I was like, this is too much information. I'm not getting it, and I didn't really feel it.
You couldn't connect with it.
Yeah, I didn't feel it because I thought 4.5 hours, and I've never taken to read a script. It's just too long. So I kept the script, and I had a shoot next morning also. I went to set, and I came back, and the script was just lying there. And my dad is an early to bed, early to rise kind of a guy, and in the morning he got up, and he again saw that script with the title on the first page, Uri the Surgical Strike, and him also as an audience, he just wanted to know what had actually happened.
Right.
So he just started reading that book. I mean, for him it was a book, but it was the script.
Right.
And by the time I came back from that shoot that day, he's like, so did you read that script? I'm like, yeah, I did. So he's like, what did you think? I'm like, I don't know, I'm not sure. So he's like, if you miss this film, if you don't do this film, it's going to be the biggest mistake of your life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And usually what happens is if I want a second read, if I want a second opinion, I always give it to dad. And we are always at 19-20 ka farak hota hai.
Like you're almost there.
Almost there.
Yeah.
This was like 5 and 20. I was like, no, I need to give it a read again. So he said, actually, I mean, that comes from experience only, that he said that maybe it's because you're in another process right now. You are in another military film right now, and you're doing, I don't know what scenes you're doing. Maybe it's that it's not letting you connect to a new script altogether. Sometimes you subconsciously are somewhere else.
You're in the Pakistani military right now.
Maybe I was a Pakistani major back then, so I wasn't agreeing to what was happening. So I was like, okay, let me just take 2-3 days, let me finish this schedule, and then let me take a day off, and then let me read it. So I told Sonia that I'm going to take 3-4 days and get back to you. She said, fine. So then I did exactly that, and I got back to the script like 4 days later. I read the script. I finished the script in 1.5 hours. And I feel like I'm reading the script for the first time because I was like, did I read this 4 days back? So it was that you know, maybe my mind was clouded with something else.
Right.
I read that script, and I remember I called up Sonia at 3 o'clock in the morning. Of course, she didn't answer. And then I told her to just call me in the morning, and then we spoke, and I was like,
Did you drunk dial?
No, I don't drink. So
okay. You don't drink?
I don't drink.
Okay.
So
for all the women here who want to take you out for a drink, just letting them know you don't drink.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.